So, what I'll show you guys, I have something open already over here, and unfortunately, I'm sorry guys, I don't know what's going on with the internet over here, but it's blocking stuff, so I keep getting error messages. But the website is photop.com. I don't know how or I don't know why, but basically it is just a free bootleg version of Photoshop. They let you buy it over here, but as long as the ads are playing in the background, they let you use it for free. It saves their projects as Photoshop documents. So even for you, Amisha, you can do this in Photop and open it up on Photoshop, or you could just work on Photoshop at home. It's basically all the same layout and the same tools. This is missing a couple of functions and things like that, but if you looked at it, it would all basically be the same. The issue with using it online is, that's an issue, but the other issue is that you're working on the web page, so you're kind of bound to your Wi-Fi, and in terms of saving something, you should only really save it as a PSD, and that will save in your downloads folder. If you clicked on it at home and you had Photoshop, it would just open. But if you were, like you, Ukash, I know you don't have Photoshop, if you clicked on it on your PC or whatever, it wouldn't open up because it wouldn't know how to open it up. You'd have to come back to this page and open it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Photop right now. I'm going to do a few simple things, and maybe what we'll do is we'll have you do the same thing. I think it's better that you kind of watch me do this. I'll put the video up. You could follow along with it, and then you could try to do it yourself. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go open from computer, and I'm just going to find a photograph. I know I have some pictures of my daughter. I'm going to go with one of those, and I'm just going to open it up. So when you open up a photograph, what you're going to find right away is that it is, this is your working area. On the left-hand side, this is your toolbar. All right, these are the different options. When you mouse over a tool, it will tell you what that tool does. That little letter next to it, so like you see brush tool, and then the letter B. That letter B is the shortcut to get to this. So you can always click on this, but let's say, for example, you don't want to click on it. If you press the letter B, it automatically selects it for you. So when you see that over here, like the object selection, okay, that one is W. Now, most of the shortcuts, almost 95% of them, are true to what Photoshop is. And they're in the same order as Photoshop. So like the eraser tool's here, it kind of looks like that, and the letter is E. And I'm going to go tool, you're not going to learn everything. You may not even learn anything today. We're just going to do some of the basics. On this side, you're going to see something called your layers window. And if you don't see that on Photoshop, you can always go to window and get layers. But your layers window is an area where you obviously, first, you're only going to see the word background, and you're going to see a little thumbnail of your picture. I'm going to talk more about layers as we go along, but this is an important layer. This is one of the layers we want to focus on. All right? I'm going to tell you the shortcuts to do some things to hopefully make it easier. So when we start with a photo that we're going to edit, I personally like to make a copy of it so that I have the original also in my program. That if I screw something up, I can always go back to the original. So the way to create a copy on a PC is, the shortcut is Control, holding down Control and pressing the letter J, like juice. And what you'll see when I do that, I get a background copy. If you're working on a Mac, it's Command J. And now what you see is there's two pictures over here. And those two pictures are the same, and they're one stacked on top of each other like they were two photocopies. Next to those, there's an eyeball, and that eyeball simply just makes things appear and disappear. When I do that, nothing changes because underneath this picture is the same one. When I do this, you see both pictures have disappeared. This checkerboard means that there's nothing there, that it's invisible, all right? So that's just the visual representation of nothing. I'm going to have this one background over here, I'm going to press the lock button so I don't accidentally do anything to it. I'm going to make it disappear. Actually, I'm not going to make it disappear. I'm just going to leave it over there and not really mess with it at all. It doesn't matter if it's there or not. I'm going to go to this background copy, and you can see I can switch from layer to layer. It's important to understand what layer you're working on and when. So I'm going to go to the background copy, and I'm going to go to some of the options up here under image. Image adjustments. Okay, image adjustments. There is a black and white option. You know, there's hue saturation, there's color balance, there's a lot of different things. First one I'm going to go to the black and white. And once you hit black and white, it automatically makes your picture black and white. Okay? So if you just want it like that, boom, you hit black and white. You can see all these levels are here. They're all like red, yellow, green. You can see, well, it's a black and white picture. Why do I see all that stuff? Well, you know what it is that it's showing you what the computer has decided to kind of make red, like what level of gray. So if I slide this, the red in the picture can be changed. Okay? It does what it thinks is the best, the yellow. It could take the yellow in the picture and just mess with the yellow. So the yellow parts of the picture you can see I'm making lighter and darker. Over here it could do with the green. There's not much green, that's why you see it over there, so I'm not really changing too much except stuff in the bottom. Down over here you see cyan. Okay, so you can play around with those things. I'm going to hit reset, and I'm going to go with what the computer told me right now, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, so now I've created a black and white image. You can see right here in my background copy the black and white version of it. Underneath it is that color version. Okay, we don't have to worry about the background right now. We'll be over your background copy. Then I'm going to go back to images, image, adjustment, and something called levels. Levels is a range of tone in your picture. It's represented as a graph. So here it's sort of giving you values for absolute black, absolute white, and whatever it decides is sort of like that medium gray in your picture. Every picture is going to have a different graph, but you're going to have black on one end, white on the other end, and gray in the middle. If I take this slider here and slide it this way, you'll notice the picture is getting lighter. If I bring it all the way over, it's telling that, okay, now this was what white was. I want to make this level of gray white. On this side, it works the same way with the black. To make things darker and darker. The gray obviously changes where the medium is. So this is something you could play around with to kind of adjust whatever the look is you want of your picture. I'm going to just show you there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing in this program, and a lot of different functions. I just want to show you levels in black and white because it's one of the ones I use the most. So levels sometimes can help you sort of, if you add a little more black and add a little bit more white to the picture, make something look a little more contrasty. And right here with the preview arrow, you can kind of see the difference. My first version of the black and white, everything was kind of gray and a little dark. This version, it's a little bright, might be a little too washed out here. I might bring it back, but it definitely stands out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. All right, so now I have my black and white image, and I've now messed around with it and added a little bit of color and stuff like that. Well, the next thing that I'm going to do, and I'll do basically what Amisha had going on before, is I want to play around by creating some other levels and making some like little just colorful shapes. There's a lot of different ways to do this. There are different tools that can do this. I'm going to do this by going down here by the layer window, and I'm going to go down here. You can see there's a garbage can in the bottom. It's called delete layer. Next to it is a rectangle with a little triangle folded up. That's called new layer. Okay? I'm going to click that, and what happens is you can see layer 1 has appeared over here. It'll come above whatever layer you're selected. You can see the little thumbnail is a checkerboard, and that checkerboard means it's absolutely clear. You know, and what does that mean? That means if I make something on a different layer, well, I can erase it, I can move it, I can change it without messing up the stuff underneath it. So I like to work with layers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a little color. All right. I'm going to go over here to my toolbar. I'm going to look at the second tool down is going to be the rectangular. It's rectangular select. In Photoshop, they call it the rectangular marquee, or used to call it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that second tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my picture and I'm going to click and drag. You see what I've made is I've made a shape. That shape has a dashed line around it. It's a selection area. I can click again and just make a different one or make a different one. I can do a bunch of different things. I can click up here, and this area right here is the tool options. So whatever tool you select here, you're going to see that in this area it will change based on what options you have for that tool. For this one, well, the first things you're going to see over here is replace, unite, subtract, and intersect. So over here I got replace. So every time I click and drag, whatever I had disappears, new thing appears. If I click the second one, unite, I'll have this one, I'll click another one, and now I've made them one big selection area. If I go to divide and click and drag, whatever I click is now unselected. Now, what is that important? I'm just going to use this marquee tool to make a shape. I don't even care what kind of shape right now. One of the things that you want to do is once you make your shape, we're going to make sure we're selected on layer 1, and now we're going to fill that shape with color. Down here, you're going to see two colors. For you on default, it's going to most likely just be black and white. You see one black box, one white box, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. The top box is your color picker. You can click on that box, and when you click on this box, you're going to get a color picker. There's going to be a line over here. You can move that around to all types of different colors. And then there's a little dot here. Right now it's all black, but if I click at different spots here, it's going to change colors. I'm going to pick a color. It doesn't matter what color it is. I'm just going to pick a color just to make it different. Now this color, whatever's in that top box, is the color I have chosen that I'm using. There are different tools that I can use, like a brush tool, or this tool, or that tool. Today we're going to learn the paint bucket. Right here, you're going to see a rectangle that looks like it's faded from white to black. It's called the gradient tool. And most of the tools, you see a little triangle next to it, right in the bottom. That means there are other options underneath it. When I click and hold, I go from the gradient tool to the paint bucket tool. The paint bucket tool basically is filled with this paint, and when you click inside your shape, it dumps that color in there. I love it. I think I did a great job with this shape. I'm so happy with it that I'm done, and I want to keep it blue. Now, you can see it still has a selection area around it. To get rid of that selection area, you would hold down Control, or in your case, if you're on a Mac, Command D, and it will deselect it. You can see that little shape has appeared on our layer. Now what I can do is I can decide, I love it, but I don't like where I put it. So the first tool that you have on the very top is called the Move tool. I'm going to click that Move tool, and then when I click and drag, I can move this little box anywhere I want. Well, I'm going to move it down. I'll put it right over here. I like it over here. I like framing this, a little emphasis over there. But I do want to, like in Amish's picture, I like using this to kind of create some different effects, not just a shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on this, and in my layer window I have layer options, and what you see on almost all of them is that there's a drop-down menu that says normal. I want to make sure I'm clicked on layer 1, and I'm going to go to the normal, and now I can play around with some of these. Now, not every single one of them is going to do something interesting. So when I hit dissolve, nothing happened. When I hit darken, well, now you can see this is what the darken effect looks like. And it's kind of laid a color over top of it and sort of messed with it. I can go to multiply, And that basically just makes that shape see-through so I can see directly through it like it's a color gel. I can go to color burn, and that kind of where areas are darker, it gives it some of that blue, where areas are lighter, it kind of gives it a little bit less. There's a bunch of different ones that you can look at and play with. Some of them look the same, some of them are stupid, some of them are good, but they can give you an interesting effect. And I'll just pick screen for this one. So I've created a shape, I've created a layer effect, I've duplicated areas. I can, because I put this on a different layer, I can move this around and try it in different spots. All right. But if I did this on the background, it would be just one piece and I would never be able to play around with it or change it later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick, you know, whatever it is, whatever I find visually the most appealing. Now I want to make another shape. I like to put them on different layers. If I do another shape on this layer, I won't be able to move them without having the two of them be one piece. I'm going to create a new layer. I'll go back to my tool over here, my marquee. I'm going to make another little shape, and I'll make a little shape right over here. I like it. I'm going to grab a different color. Blue is cool, but I'll try to get some more pink over here. And I'll get my bucket, I'll dump it in there. All right. And then again, I'm going to go from normal and I'll try something else. I'll try multiply on this one. I don't know if I like the way that looks. Maybe it kind of works, but it's maybe too dark for me. So what I can do over here is the opacity, and I can play around with that and kind of lighten that up. Again, to get rid of this outline selection, I'll just hit Control D. Oops. Got to click off of that. Control D. And what I'll do is I'll play around and I'll do a couple little crazy things. I can sort of, well, for each shape, what I'll tell you to do is create a new layer. So I'll create a new layer for that one. I'll grab my moving tool and I'll do a little something over here. This one, I think what I'll do is I'll pick a real bold kind of red and dump it in. Okay. And maybe for that one, I'm just going to leave it as just red. And, you know, I'll play around with this and add a couple different things. And all I really want you to see is, one, how to create new layers. Two, how to use your paint bucket and color picker. And three, how to use the marquee tool to make some different shapes. So what I'll tell you is, and we'll just call this an assignment for right now, is why don't each of you grab a photo, any photo you want, bring it into Photo P, or if you want, Amisha, you could just use Photoshop. And why don't we set up with, I want you guys to take a photograph, make it black and white, adjust its levels, and then why don't you add at least 3 shapes on it, all right? We'll make that today's lesson, and then I'll show you how to add more to it. We're not really looking that this is going to be the most amazing thing that you've ever made, but I'd like to show you some functions and some tools, and I think the easiest way to do that is if you do a little something with it. Does that make sense for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I'm going to do is I'm stopping this video. Which again, I'm sorry that it's